in theory, we are live on everything. Which, that I got a photo from Heaton, Justin, that confused me because it implied that you guys were still out in Indiana, or was that this morning? You guys were all dressed fancy.
That was last night.
That was last night. Okay, he sent it this morning.
Yeah, no, I think he's just waking up this morning.
Got it.
I was up at 3:20 in the morning.
I was about to say,
playing.
if I were to make a guess, it would be that you were in and out, quit messing about, yo ho, yo ho, yo ho.
Oh yeah, no, it's been a real hoot of a week, man. I'll tell you what, it has been as advertised, action packed, and I would not have it any other way.
Right on. All right, well here, actually, let me see. Could oh, there he is. G James B. Excellent. Good. G James B's in the chat over on Twitch, and it looks like we're live. There it is, Robbie Lackey. Yeah, man, Robbie Lackey. We just dropped a new, brand new Behind the Scam episode over at Scam School. Check that out. But for now, we got to do the Weird Things podcast. So let me, for the uninitiated, Weird Things podcast is increasingly about, it used to be weird things, then it was futurism, and now it's just the future, and now it's just the present. We finally got there, gentlemen. All right, here we go. I'm going to press record in 3, 2.
Hello and welcome to the Weird Things podcast. I'm Andrew Mean, joined by Brian Brushwood.
Hello.
Mr. Justin Robert Young.
Oh yeah, baby, what's going on?
I want to show you all something pretty cool, and this is kind of it's a little bit AI related, but it's adjacent. And I promise you it's worth it because I want to show you just the pace of development here. One of the things that I've loved playing with is years ago, like big into 3D models and stuff. And I just found this cool model on Replicate, which again, I invite everybody to just go play around and experiment with these tools. Go to replicate.com. You'll see all sorts of different AI models there. And I found this one by a developer called Fertaz, and it's called Trellis. And what it does is it takes a image and then converts it into a 3D model. And I'll give you a demo of this in real time. Okay. Brian was reacting. We were looking at the image they had was like the sandworm, just like a thing of a sandworm. I did this before, but let me upload you can put multiple images, by the way, of the object.
wow.
But I have just one image, which I had GPT-4 make for me, which kind of wanted a Blade Runner-esque car, and it made that. So you can see this image, it's in a background, all that. And so now I'm going to go back to this tab. I've uploaded this here, and I'm not going to change any settings here. I'm just going to click run. And again, I just took a really cool 2D image from ChatGPT.
Yeah, and it looked like the prompt would have been like Blade Runner police car digital art.
Pretty much exactly what I wrote, Brian, except for digital art. I just said, I think I used Spinner. I used Spinner from Blade Runner, right? So we're watching this generate, and so this is going to take, I don't know, maybe a minute, less than a minute.
And so right now, we're seeing looks like kind of like a command prompt stuff, like it's running a script and updating you. You see a bunch of rendering bits.
Yeah, so Replicate's great because what they do is they have a bunch of servers that can handle different kinds of AI models. And I've shown you stuff before, like using, I don't know if we did it on here, but I showed like a incredibly fast generator that was doing images in like 0.3 seconds, which was insane. And so it depends on the server speed here. This is accessible to anybody. Go to replicate.com. I am not a paid sponsor, just a big fan of their accessibility.
Holy moly.
Wow.
Real quick in the chat, Robbie was asking, tell me this can spit out 3D printing options. I assume so. It looks like it's got a fully bitmapped 3D. Wowie zowie.
Look at this. It created it.
That's
That
crazy.
is now it is a 3D asset that the file, I forget the file output that it gives you, but it is it's a mesh. It's got all of those details into it. And let's see what my cost per was 62 seconds. So it took a little over a minute, but you can see I can zoom in. And again, if I added more images, it would be high quality, but we got the front, we got the back. We're looking at an asset made from just a 2D image. And again, if I uploaded more examples of what I wanted to designs and stuff, and like I could probably go into ChatGPT and give me like a top view of this, whatever. Amazing, amazing. And so I'm going to go over in the behind the scenes here. I'm going to go to my dashboard and I will tell you what it cost me to run that prediction.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Min Huang, while you're doing that, pointed out that if you needed background doodads, like just what that is absolutely perfect. I had a similar thought. I was thinking a lot of those kind of, God games where you're sky-based real-time strategy, when you zoom in enough, even when they were made by humans, that's about the level of rendering quality that you would get. But it's not quite. Uh-oh, I'm drawing too much power. Hang on, I'm going to mute myself. You guys take over the show.
All right. So my total cost so far, I think, has been that was 7 cents to generate that.
That's nuts to think what that would take from the moment of conception for an idea to get the general premise. I mean, and obviously as a 2D image, it's crazy, but then to spit that out as a 3D image, just to think of the work that used to go through that. And that's, when we talk about job automation or job loss, where I don't know how to do the math on it is something like that, where what is being created that otherwise would not have been professionally done, right? Like what is worth now? Like what is created when now it's okay, you have these 3D models that you wouldn't have otherwise had, and you never would have made sense to do, right? Like it's just, there's all this new stuff that's possible.
Well, there's an entire market for people buying 3D assets and kits and stuff from people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what you get here is that it certainly can replace that in extent. But I'd say what you're going to now get is you have the ability to create incredibly new, more complex games. Somebody, one of the things we've seen is people creating a lot of these easy to generate vibe coded games, but the assets are simple or the same. Now I can go into, a tool like this with a bunch of, items that I've, created and create a very complex world. It took us a minute, to make this thing.
Yeah.
And that actually generated an animation of it, but it, took me a minute to create this thing. I could in an afternoon create, a Blade Runner type scenario or scene and have that ready to go. Now I'm trying a little thing in the background here, which is I'm going to use a new tool, which I think people could try if you're kind of curious, which is Codex. So just give me 1 second there. I want you to make this asset. So I'm typing a thing in here. I'll explain that in a second. But Justin, feel free to fill the void.
Yeah, sorry. I actually turned off the TV because the UPS is screaming at me, and then it messed up your shot, and so now on the fly, live during a podcast, I'm troubleshooting, which is always fun. Take it away, Justin. You're the one voice.
Hey, everybody. You want to know what the funniest thing about 3D models are? Well, it's that third dimension, after all, poking you right in the eye. Not flat like these other 2D models. A 3D model is something that you can really wrap your hands around, literally, if you were to produce it physically, as opposed to just look at it. Honestly, I mean, I'm going to underline this again. Just going and playing around with some of these models is a great way to just sort of understand where we're at in terms of how quickly some of the branching of this tech is. And it's easy to lose sight of that because right now we have a very unfocused view, in my opinion, of AI that we we look at the few products that exist that are, you know, being provided by some of the biggest companies on the planet, but what is sort of lost is, you know, under the surface, a lot of this kind of artistic stuff here, which I think is probably going to have just as much, if not more, of an impact on some of the creative arts and even some of the business side stuff. Like there's just you know, such an ability to create this stuff.
Yeah, I think about the times that I spent a lot of time searching through catalogs looking for 3D assets and stuff. Now I think about if I can spend that time starting with sketches. Like what I love about the new GPT-4 image model, if you haven't played with the image model in ChatGPT, it's fantastic. You can grab like 5 images of something and put it together and combine it. We've been working on a project where we had to do some set design. And so early on, we just took some photos of chairs in the scene we're in and said, throw those chairs in there. But also for taking just sketches and stuff. You can do like you could take a couple example pieces of art and it's a terrible thumb sketch, but of what you want, like place me here, put this in my hand. And it'll do that. And it's kind of amazing.
Brian, have you tried stunt doubling yourself? Oh, is Brian not there?
Yes, I have.
No, I have not, Justin. Sorry. You know, it's a difficult nut to crack is how to solve for your UPS drawing too much power while you don't know which devices you can unplug.
Gotcha. Sorry, I didn't realize that you were not at the con there. Well, for all the listeners, this is a fun thing because the ChatGPT new image model is very, very capable. You can put a photo of yourself and then just say, recreate this photo. And what you're going to get is your stunt double. It looks enough like you. It would look like you if they were running or doing karate or something that would happen in a stunt double in a movie, but it won't exactly be you. But I find it endlessly funny whenever, you know, you throw something in there and you just say make it a movie poster or remove a background or something like that. It's always it's a perfect stunt double.
Yeah, I am. Oh, there we go. I'm going to try to see if a little experiment ran here. And no. If you want to play around with code, a very cool thing to play with is OpenAI and Anthropic has their version called Cloud Code, but excuse me, Claude Code, new thing. But they have a thing, and what you can do is you can go in and basically put this in your command line, and what that will allow you to do is then basically try to say build me a simple app or build a thing, and it's free. I mean, other than you have to use your OpenAI key, and so that's a pretty neat thing. So I use that a lot to start projects. And so I'm frozen emotionally, but that's fine.
No, I think I've just about got us. Check this out. Here we go. Display number 3. Hey. Successfully
now we're cooking
rebuilt
with
an
grass.
engine mid-flight.
Look at that.
There we go.
And that's the kind of stuff that you should reward us for. Patreon.com/weirdthings is where you need to go if you want to support this show. Thank you very much for everybody who does it. And we will continue to bring you this long-running peek into the world of the weird, the technology that will shape our future.
We had a conversation earlier this week to go talk to some people at OpenAI working on some cool stuff. And Justin, do you think the pace of development is going to slow down?
No, I do not think that it is going to slow down. I was having a conversation with our friend Andrew Heaton last night, because he just did an episode about AI, and he was, he has a friend of his that he views as kind of an ombudsman to his program, and his episode on AI was very optimistic, but his ombudsman gave him a call and he said, when you really look at it, it might be a little bit more hype than it is substance, and blah 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 blah. And I was there for my friend, and we're sitting in a limo driving from a high school in Thornton, Indiana. Different story, but I'm like, Trust me, it is not hype. I have been to the forges where I am watching the future being melded, and I come here to tell you, it is only going to accelerate. There is no brakes on this car, and I think that by the time that we are now beginning spring. Spring has sprung here at the beginning of May. By the time that we get to the other side of the summer, it's going to make where we are right now look like a joke, in my opinion.
I don't know that, we might run into some scaling issue because, I don't see that. I think we keep finding solutions around it. There was the update with the fact that Grok 3 wasn't really substantially better than the other model. It's supposed to have been trained much longer and deeper. GPT 4.5 was deeply capable in some ways, but on the evals didn't really show that.
Yeah.
And I would say that, but then we had the reasoning models. And meanwhile, O3, like there are people on Twitter in my feed that just having transcendent experiences using the O3 model. And I feel that it's like, yeah, because there are things between the evals that these models can be exceptional at. But there could be some big blocker for some things, but the amount of utility we get right now from these models, and even the reasoning models are kind of built on a version of a 2.5-year-old technology of GPT-4. When I hear the kind of the naysayers, one, I find out they don't really spend much time with these systems. They might like, oh, I did a thing and it didn't work. I'm like, that's not the most empirical thing. They're not like, no, I did an exhaustive thing across this thing, talked to a lot of other people telling me they're getting utility out of it. I never hear it from there. Like, because I know.
Well, keep in mind, we see some of the same structures. We've seen it when it came to 1970s fraudsters claiming to have supernatural powers, and that is just a cognitive bias. Like in the case of the 1970s pseudoscience scam artists, the scientists who tested them they would design the test protocols, and they would, because they couldn't imagine how it could be done, therefore it must be ESP. It is the same cognitive bias that is revealing itself when it comes to AI denialism, where it's like, because they cannot imagine what it'll be good for, this, that, or the other, it must not be good.
Yeah, and I think the problem is just that you have to update your opinions on these things. You can be overly optimistic, and you have to update and say, okay, it's not where we thought it was. It's 2025, and agentic systems can still be brittle and fall apart. On the other hand, I do talk to some of the pessimists and realize that they don't have they have no understanding of what changed between now and 12 months ago, like literally no idea. And if I ask them, oh, can you name somebody prominent in the medical field using this? They won't. They're just not aware of it. And, can you tell me, what percent of code is being generated at? And they're like, I don't know. And if you said, well, like, hey, 80% of code at Google is, and they're like, well, that's their problem. That they have this like idea, well, they're all stupid and don't know what they're doing. And I'm like, well, maybe. And, my kind of biggest kind of response I use a lot is somebody who couldn't predict where we were going to be, from here. You couldn't predict today a year ago or 2 years ago, could not predict anywhere, was directionally completely wrong about where we are right now. Why would I trust their instincts about the future? And there's been a couple of the AI naysayers that you just don't see in the news anymore because they were just so famously wrong. They're just they're kind of the Uri Geller of AI. It's just a clown show if you have them on, but they'll still get some places to speak. But again, I don't know where to be next year, but I can tell you what it is right now, and what it is right now is
the one thing is like I don't think that we have productized the capabilities of the models that we have today. Like, and that's why I'm like, all right, by the time that we get to the next month, if we just go on a linear path of finding where this tech meets our needs as humans by August, September, we're just going to have more of these products. We're going to have more of these things that are actually going to make our lives better on a daily basis. And that's before you get to the jumps in the frontier, which continue to happen regularly. And so even if we were in a world where that slowed, I think for the average person, you're probably still going to have 5 or 6 new products that are going to be like, wow, my life is now different because I have these, in a way that the internet gave us that back in the late 90s, early 2000s, leading through to, the 2010s. It was like every other week, oh, here's a cool new website. that's great that this new website exists. It makes my life different and better. We are going to continue to get that. And that's before you even factor in that this tech is going to be, continue to get better and do things that we had not previously thought possible.
I think a lot now about things that were fringe but possible, and what happens when you have acceleration with AI as far as our ability to process information and what was fringe, what may be realistic now. I watched a video, PBS Space Time, which was the company that I brought in, the producers behind it, Kornhaber and Brown. I brought them in to help me produce videos when I worked at OpenAI because they're just super brilliant. They just have a recent video which talked about transmitting energy, quantum transmission of energy. And they kind of point out that like you can't pull energy out of the vacuum, but you can put energy into it and pull it out somewhere else. And that made me think about like, one, I mean, I think, I was watching the video, I don't know if it has to be super local, whatever, but I was like, well, that's an interesting idea if we figure this out. And some things scale, some things don't. There was a paper that came out recently, by the way, that said that they actually were able to derive power from the Earth's magnetic field by basically, they figured out an apparatus that was able to kind of generate like passively as the Earth rotates, it would get it from the Earth's magnetic field. And it was like, looked pretty legit, like they were actually able to do that. And then it was funny, you see the speculation of like, we've cracked this. And now we can, think of what we can solve for energy. And I'm like, well, this is interesting, but they mentioned it's not a lot of energy, and there's not a lot. And then in physics, there's not a lot. And I went to deep research to say, could you tell me how much energy it would take to like power a phone? And it was something like a stack of the systems the size of the Empire State Building.
Oh, Jesus.
And so it's one of these things where, before in a billion years, you'll never get the amount of energy out that it took to build your system to get the energy. It doesn't mean it has no utility.
Yeah.
But it does mean that, the energy you get is, just not going to really be worthwhile.
Well,
but then this whole idea.
So it sounds like it's a little bit more, your beef is not so much with the core research efforts so much as the breathless headlines that, that overstate the benefit, or.
I don't even that. I would say there's a, and there's this sort of a mentality. It's sort of sometimes in social media of like, those idiots didn't realize we could have done this all along, or Nikola Tesla was right, or it's like, well, I mean, yes, but no. And it was just this sort of like, it's the person that told you that the gas, my uncle knows a guy that built an engine that could go 1,000 miles on a gallon of gas, but they wouldn't let him build it.
Yeah, they are keeping him down.
And remember, the most famous they that I recall was, well, other than they can cure cancer, but they won't because
they won't make money on healthy people. It's like, no, people who are alive pay a lot of money to stay alive.
Yeah, I was like, well, how come I was able to get LASIK? Like, you would think the optometrist would have shut that down.
Big optometry.
Yeah, the other one was why we can't have electric cars.
Oh yeah.
There
killed
was
the electric car. Remember that awesome documentary?
It began with my good friend Ed Begley Jr. crying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we were told that. Yeah, we were told the automotive industry and big oil just was the reason we couldn't have electric cars. And then a crazy South African dude built one anyways, apparently. And so I think that do I think that there's sometimes you remember the movie Tucker, and like. Kind of love the movie, but the theory was like, they'll just shut down, really clever inventors. And I do think there's all kinds of resistance that go against inventors and creators, like Richard Branson, having, British Airways, like what he went through to go through there. And then Elon Musk having to fight, basically people within the government did not want him to be able to launch rockets from the Air Force facility in California, and had to sue the government to do this. And everybody's like, no, you don't do that, because if these are your prospective clients, you don't sue them. And he's like, they're not our clients now, Yeah. And so I do think there's incredible resistance, but sometimes you do get through. And anyhow, my perception is just this, it's the ancient secret they're keeping from us. But that's neither here nor there. The idea, though, that if you think about that, if you could transmit energy like that, through some quantum means. What does that mean for space travel? What does that mean for a lot of things? The idea that I can have a power station at one point and I can have something else somewhere else. That means near light speed, totally doable in, some theoretical framework. And I'm hesitant too now to say, like, when we do time frames, because everybody's time frame is completely off now, because nobody had on the cards in 2025 these incredibly powerful agentic systems that can, like, do research.
Yeah.
And that's, like, go find every research paper ever written on this topic, go through, summarize, find similarities, find some hidden things there, and to give me some thoughts on it that haven't been explored. These systems can do that now, and 5 years from now, don't even know.
I mean, because they can do it constantly over and over and over again, and squeeze every bit of juice based on our current understanding of something, which is insane to think of, and then do its own research, which is wild.
So I had a societal thought that popped into my mind. As one of the things that LLMs and our understanding of them has really shown a spotlight on in my mind that really surprised me is how much, I mentioned this before. There was some moment that I said, oh, well, LLMs begin their sentence not knowing how it's going to end, ... just like humans. And those words came out naturally, but then I was like, oh my God, we really do that. We start talking not knowing how we're going to end the sentence. And then that got me thinking, how else are we like LLMs? And that led me to thinking about network effects of who we bump into, our modes of communication, everything from micro expressions to body posture to the way we physically present tells a story that instantly conveys whether or not someone's excited, relaxed, looking for work or distracted, all those things. And that got me onto the subject that I want to bring to you guys. The idea that, and as far as I know, you guys can push back if you know otherwise, we really are, every human is the average of the 5 people closest in their lives by net worth, by weight, by, physical capabilities, by, all those things. And so there is a benefit. That is the reason that people go to networking events, is to physically just be around. And it makes sense. I mean, if there's a normal distribution of everything from IQ to communication skills to ability to see tasks to completion, then it makes sense that people born into rich families would just grow up around rich opportunities. And maybe they're a goofus, but they're still a rich goofus, et cetera, et cetera. It had me wondering that, like, if somebody... It made me think of the Diamond Age of in that book, there's a young lady's primer that is powered by artificial intelligence, where somebody grows up outside of her station. Her class is very, very lower class, but this book, this magic AI book, fills her head with high-end, Victorian, well-educated stories and ideas, talking about logic and mathematics, and she ends up growing. This is while living in the gutter. She gets a Cinderella story existence, and it occurred to me, we can do that today, right now. If you are a family who makes, not a lot of money, you can make, or if you're a person who wants to be upwardly mobile, you can set the rules for your GPT to say, I want you to talk to, I am somebody who makes $1 million a year, and I want you to talk to me like that. And I want to reconcile what's so broken about this bank account. And then when it says, well, have you sold your company yet? And you're like, oh, I've forgotten how to do that. The point being, the more of these conversations you have, the more your neurons rewire and buckle up to enter that strata where you fit in congruently with everyone else. There kind of is a cheat code to going past it now. And I don't know if that sounds like crazy talk to you guys or not.
I think that we saw kind of with the invention of the book, the invention of the book was the idea that you could be at any class at any level, but if you had exposure to somebody else's great ideas, then you could do that. And that's why a lot of, to be trained, a classical education is the idea that you can benefit from the learnings of the last several thousand years of Western civilization, And I do think that is profound. Sometimes you meet highly self-educated people, and you find out what it was is, they discovered reading early on and were able to do that. But the next step, though, is to be able to converse and talk to. We have those friends who are very self-educated but not tested and never really had their. I had a friend in high school who was one of the smartest people I knew, but he didn't like to be challenged and kind of moved back to a very rural town, and then was liked being the smartest guy there. But he had trouble when he was in a city and in a room. And I have friends that are very smart, but you put them in a room with a bunch of other smart people, and they do not do well because they're not used to not being the smartest person in the room. And I think that's what's exciting about these models, though, is the idea that you could, in the future, if you want to shape the path of your children's education, et cetera, is like, cool, be more challenging. I want you to be more intellectually rigorous. Do this.
Yeah, that you can have a very specific and regimented push to get you to where you are, because theoretically the ideas would meet you where you were and be able to run as fast as you could. I mean, I think we think a lot of our current education paradigm is written around the idea of like dredging up the back of the class, right? Like we want to create a thing that can push as many people through these hoops as you can, these check marks as you can. And then obviously you have like gifted classes, but we have like one mode above, right? It's like, okay, you can have a gifted class, you can have an AP class, and then if you're Doogie Howser, you can go to college at 11 or something, right? Like that's where we've maxed out on the smartest people on the planet. Where now there's going to be so many more gradients of, hey, where are you right now in your lesson? Are you really feeling it? Do you want to continue to blast through it? Like you can now just rip this stuff, because the hard work, the bottlenecks of, I need to make a lesson, I need to test you, I need to see where your aptitude is, that is now, so much quicker, so much easier to do.
You think about when you start to get embodied systems and robots, and the idea that, while you're sitting on your computer, your kid can be on the floor with their teddy bear, instruct them in art.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to be clear that, the job of the parent is the parent, and the job of robots and toys is to be in toys or instructions and stuff. But I think that there's a very interesting sort of world where your household has multiple autonomous systems doing things along what your goal is, and not to spend less time doing the nurturing and the things that we want to do, but actually give us more time to do those kinds of things.
I was thinking about this, and this isn't necessarily an AI thing, but it is certainly an internet culture one. The rise of music festivals and just physical meetings of general interest. And it hit me when I was watching the NFL draft, which obviously the NFL is very popular. But a few years ago, the NFL decided that they were not going to hold their NFL draft in the Radio City Music Hall, where you would have, a couple hundred fans, usually from New York, that would gather. They tried to get fans from all the teams, but usually it was New York people because it was in New York. And a few years ago, they decided they were going to make it a traveling road show. They would do it in varying different NFL cities, usually the cold ones because it's nicer in the spring. But this year it was in Green Bay, Wisconsin. And if you've never been to Green Bay, Wisconsin, it is a incredibly small town. There is not an easy way to get there. It is not next to a major airport. You have to really kind of go out of your way to be there. And there was, I'm going to guess, and somebody can look up the exact number for day one, like 70,000 people. It was like somewhere between 30 and 70,000 people that were there to watch what is essentially a listicle. Like it's not a particularly riveting visual thing. It's the commissioner of the league coming out and saying a name, and then an 18-year-old possibly hugging him, and that's that. And I was like, why is this popular? Why do people want to go do it? And what I've come to is just, we're so separated and siloed that if there is a thing that you can connect to other people on, I'm going to go. It is essentially NFL Con. That's what that is. It is just the ability to be in a space with other people who want to talk about this thing. That is now more valuable than ever. And I think for us, it's a little old hat because we come out of these internet and nerd and geek communities that have been doing cons forever. They were the forebears of it, like so many things in culture that geek and nerddom stuff kind of tends to be. But now it's mainstream, and I guess it was one of the things that I've been kind of, it's been crazy to wrap my head around, because I'm aged out of the point where I would really, really, really want to go stand next to people to go experience it. But the crowd was young. It was like super young, and it was a bunch of people going out there and partying, watching names being read, and it is, I don't know. I think that we're only going to keep having more of them.
It reminds me, it's like the joke about the guy wearing the Steelers jersey making fun of the kid dressed up in cosplay.
Yes.
And it's
yeah.
like the only difference
literal
is
thing that happens in Atlanta every year.
Dragon Con. Yeah. Dragon Con.
Yeah, like, hey nerd, what are you doing? As they're wearing their Kansas City Chiefs hats and this, or the Falcons, and it's like, I don't think you play for them. I'm pretty sure you don't play. Pretty sure that's not your name on the back of the jersey.
Yeah.
So I think it's fascinating. Like my wife and I have been spending time at Disney, and something came up, and we're not like if somebody asked me, are you like Disney adults? Like, no, he's like going there because it's just fun to do it. But and then we're do something, and the D23 came up. My wife like, what's D23? I'm like, it's like a super fan club for Disney, Yeah. And then I started thinking about like I don't mean this pejorative, but like there's a cult. Like there's a real cult there, it's, there's performative ways, but not in the negative ways of like, don't talk about it. Like, please talk about it. But it was just this, like, here's a way to dress, or here's a way to do this, or religion, or whatever we want to do. Like this is like, because from the outside, like, oh yeah, and you can join this, do this membership here. You go to these events, you do this, you can do this thing called pin trading and do all these other things. And I don't get it, but I know people like it, and it's not hurting me. So, that's fine.
I suspect a lot of it is a physical location where everyone speaks the same language. And I know that we don't, it sounds like hyperbole to say that, geeks and jocks, nerds and jocks speak different languages, but the only thing lacking is a political border. Like when you look at Norwegian versus Swedish, the two languages, they could talk to each other, and they're closer than trying to express ideas in, football language versus Klingon, well, in that case, a literal language, but in Star Trek analogies. And to be in the same place where everybody speaks your language, you get a more frictionless, high-speed exchange of ideas. So that totally tracks. And especially, sprinkle on top of that some deep, deep desire to get back to physical interactions post-pandemic. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I do think it's only going to increase, though, because if you look at where, to get back to AI, I do wonder whether or not our culture continues to splinter. Like, we continue to find exactly what we want to talk about, and we find the people that want to talk exactly what we want to talk about, whether or not AI either exacerbates that, it continues that trend where we find deeper and deeper fractals, or maybe we go through the looking glass and AI is something that binds these like tribes that have fractured and splintered into such thin communities. Maybe AI is like, oh, did you know that you have a lot in common with these 90 other fractional communities? And we find we begin to come back together. We begin to find something closer to a mainstream.
I want to touch on one more topic which we haven't addressed, and it's not related to AI. It's one of our favorite crazy companies, Colosso Biosciences.
Okay.
For the uninitiated, these are the folks bringing them back. Real life Jurassic Park.
Yes.
I guess what era would it be? Pre-human or early human history?
Yeah, well, you hear the latest about the whole dire wolf.
Yeah, well, it's some percentage of a dire wolf, right?
Yeah, so this is the controversy. So what they did was they were able to get hold of the genetic sequence of dire wolves, an extinct species as a wolf, And then they took I don't know, forget what wolf, like a timber wolf or some other species of wolf. Then they went through and they changed several of the genes to match the dire wolf genes. And they said, hey, we've brought back the dire wolf. And some people are like, well, you didn't clone it directly from dire wolf DNA, and you're selective about which genes you used. Is that dire wolf or is it not? And I don't have an answer to that. But they've actually cloned puppies now that, you know, we're going to see as they grow. And dire wolves are a bit huskier and bigger than other wolves, and so it might manifest some of the features. We talked about this a long time ago too, which was when we're talking about dinosaurs and how if you're cloning a dinosaur, maybe, you know, you don't want to bring back exactly a T-Rex because like oxygen levels and other things have changed since then, the environment, and you might make certain modifications from that. And you know what, it's one of these things I think that is probably a silly conversation now. I mean, it will be a silly conversation in the future because we're ultimately going to like not realize that's not really what mattered. But I would say that it is this sort of interesting point. We're saying like, well, what is it? You know, is this thing a wolf or not a wolf? Dire wolf.
Yeah, well, this is, I mean, for lack of a better term, this is eco poetry, right? It's like, the thing is like, there's a temptation to believe that there's a thing called nature before man, but it's like, well, which era would you like? They all look very different, you know, and so there is no restoring back to a pristine original nature. Instead, there's simply eco poetry, like why build megafauna and release them into North America? Because you would like the land to look however it's going to look after you create megafauna and release them into North America. Anything beyond that, I wonder how many people. It would be interesting to hear interviews from all the people working on it on what motivates them in that regard.
I think that for part of them as they look at like helping the environment and the idea that you could help restore, I think there's part of the excuse is to be able to say that like, hey, we can, parts of the environment might benefit from having some of these, you know, apex creatures and whatnot. And there's a big debate there. I do think it is this idea of being able, like they also want to bring back the dodo, you know, and I think there's this idea of can we fix a thing? Can we fix a thing that we did?
Yeah, that one actually seems like there is a there is a within living memory a oops my bad undo that we can do. Like we can be like, yep, we're now back to how we were before.
Yeah.
Yeah. Number one, I didn't know the dire wolf was real. I thought it was just a Game of Thrones thing. I was unaware that it was an actual real thing that had gone extinct. So that was my first thought about it. I was kind of baffled by some of the naysaying of the like, well, it's not really a dire wolf, and it's like, yeah, they're dead, dude. like this is going to be a recreation of it. I don't think that anybody's running away from that. You can't just reach back in time and grab them. You are doing your best with science.
Yeah, I don't have a strong opinion on it. I do think it's pretty amazing, and I think that over time, you know, what seems like a big deal to us now is not going to be as big of a big deal before, and I think it's going to come into the function. And I do think that, you know, I'm curious. Like, I want to see them bring back other things. You know, one of the things they want to bring back is like they want to basically recreate. You know, they want to do the woolly mammoth, but their plan is to basically take an Indian elephant and then make it hairy.
Yeah. Well, at first,
Hair it up.
baby steps until the thing you have seems to match 99.9999% of the DNA that you find entombed in ice. At that point, it's like, yeah, pretty much a
no. I don't think that's necessarily the goal. I don't think they're trying to get to a perfect genetic representation. I think they want it just to fit in the ecosystem.
Which again, yeah, and I guess that does check my box. It's like, well, if what you want is the effects of a woolly mammoth and the aesthetic of a woolly mammoth, beyond that, how much do you care? Because not even nature would stick to any one plan.
Yeah, listen, I'm all aboard whatever. I mean, I just want to see these things. So
Yeah.
So we're all for this. We're all in
Hell
support.
yeah.
If we,
Right.
I know technically the recipe for a a more universally approachable podcast is to add someone who disagrees with us, but I really
Nope.
enjoy just all of us agreeing that it's awesome.
Awesome. Let's go. Full throttle.
Yeah, but we could. I mean, yeah, but we could get counterpoints and counterpoints and counterpoints to stuff, and sure.
This is why
But
I've told you guys, if I ran the Jurassic Park franchise, every movie would just be another park going wrong.
Yeah.
And every
Yeah.
movie would begin with them saying, wait, you're really opening another park after it went wrong the last 7 times? And somebody's going to be like, yup. That's what and the rides are different and the dinosaurs are different. But every time, look, the most popular versions of that movie are always the one where the park goes wrong. And then they do other stuff. Oh, after the park, now we're going to go through an old park and now dinosaurs are pets. No one cares about that. We want to see a T-Rex rip a tilt-a-whirl in half. That's what we always want to see.
Let me give you a counterpoint because, we're starting to see this with the Star Wars universe. They're finally not making it lightsabers 24/7. Like, I would love a movie that looks like another Jurassic Park, but then it's like, well, we got to get ready for the big Raptor football game. And then at some point, you get so caught up in the drama of these Raptors that are underfunded in a corner of the park that get trained up that all of a sudden you forget to cheer for the park going wrong. You just want to see the bad news Raptors.
I'm down, but spectacle. We need a bunch of people in a place when everything goes wrong. That's my only thing.
I have a different take.
Okay.
I'm all for. Yeah, we watched the trailer last night for the new Jurassic Park movie, and I'm like, all they want is dinosaurs eating people. That's all they want.
it.
Like, oh, the danger to our ecosystem and no,
Get out of
just
here.
so it's like walking. You know what I love about Walking Dead?
Mm-hmm.
It stayed true.
Yep. We need to go get water. Well, all right,
zombies-
you go by yourself. All right.
Yeah, zombies and
there were
people
zombies
making
there.
terrible decisions. That's it. They
Yeah.
created an empire on that. Like literally. I do have a pitch, which I'll throw this out there. Which I have. If I had more bandwidth, I'd try to do it. My agent knew Michael Crichton. She learned the industry from my Erica Silverman, who's she's been a wonderful, wonderful person to me, and she's a saint to me. And she learned the industry because she followed Michael Crichton around, the film and TV meetings and all this sort of stuff, and he showed her the ropes of that. And they have done other stuff with Michael Crichton's IP. They did a book about a volcano where they took an idea he had. If I had the time and I was able to push for this, I would love to write the prequels, the story of Hammond making the park, starting early on. Because remember in the book, you talk about like the miniature elephants and all these other little things and this stuff. It's like, oh man.
One of my favorite scenes in the book that has never been adapted into any of the versions of the Jurassic Park movies that I've seen is Hammond going to get money and like putting on the table this like gnarled, weird, like minimum viable product dinosaur that is like not impressive, but it's impressive enough that he's done it that they're like, fine, here's money. And it's like, that's one of the coolest ideas ever.
Yeah, like where did they get the money? What happened with, who were the early investors and what was going on, the experiments and stuff? What else were they doing? I think you could do this thing set in like the 1980s and 90s of this super sort of weird, research thing. I think you make a great miniseries too. Like I would love the pre-Jurassic Park story because man, we get to the park opens, but like there was as somebody works at an AI lab, there was a lot of trial and error that went on there.
Yeah.
All right, let's do picks.
My pick is the first 15 minutes of Andor season 2. I've seen it 3 times. That's all I've seen. I've been very busy, and so my little treat every night is this time I'm going to try to finish the whole thing. Although I will my pick will be the Called Shot experiment. I don't know if you know this, Andrew, but over on the Cord Killers podcast, Tom Merritt and I have started doing this. It started off as kind of a stunt, an experiment, but it's become like a legit good podcast. The theory that we were testing is when you're in polite company and somebody asks, "Oh, you've seen so and so or whatever," there are so many shows like I'm not going to watch all of Fringe. I'm not going to get the full experience on that. But then we had the idea of, well, what if you watched the pilot episode, the first episode, the highest rated episode, the ultimate episode, the lowest rated episode, and the last episode, FULL? Would you then, give or take, have the full experience? And so every month we take a different show that has finished its run and we give it the full experience trial. That's how we experienced The West Wing. That's how we did The Wire. That's how we did The Shield. And then we number one, we evaluate whether or not they stand up. The Outer Limits, MASH, all of these shows. But number two, we're also testing the theory, and we have a new opportunity just because the time winds up just right. We're in the middle of doing the full experience on Moonlighting. So we have the last episode is this week. And then we had to pick what we're going to do for the next month. And even though Andor hasn't ended, we talked about, I correctly, it turns out, according to Diego Luna, predicted that the purpose of Andor season 2 is to recontextualize Rogue One, so that what was technobabble about faction this and faction that will now have meaning and possibly look like a much better movie. So I've only seen Rogue One the first time, and then the second time will be at the end of the full experience. We're going to start Andor this next week, and then we'll watch the ultimate, because by then the show will have ended and we'll have the data of what the highest rated episode was. Then we'll watch the lowest rated and the last, and then we'll rewatch Rogue One. So that's my pick is join me on the full experience of Andor.
Yeah, I would say, the challenge with watching Andor out of sequence or whatever is that it's like this, they're like the last season was 3 arcs.
Yeah.
And you don't, it's like a sitcom thing. I watched the first 3 episodes of Andor.
Mm-hmm.
I think there was a really good 80-minute first episode there. You seen it, Justin?
No, not yet.
Yeah, I think they had and I'm like, man, I'm a third way through here. Like, wow, a lot of table setting, particularly where each 3 episodes is supposed to be its own mini movie. And this was a movie. Stuck in the first act, and there was you'll see it's good, it's well done.
Awesome.
Well done,
good.
But,
all right,
character stuff, but I was like, expectations I would lower them.
got you.
Speaking of low expectations, or Justin, did you have your pick?
Oh, my pick is The Righteous Gemstones, which is going to end its run this weekend, so you would be able to do the full experience, Brian, after this Sunday's episode. They did a penultimate episode last week, and it felt like their season finales in the past. So I am very excited to see where they go with their series finale, because I do think that show, on top of being just absolutely gut-bustingly funny and one of the best cast shows ever, I often find my inner monologue just being Uncle Baby Billy's voice and things that I'm frustrated with. I want to tell to shut up, nerd. But it's also got heart, and when the show wants to kind of flex that, it's able to do it. So I'm excited, because I think that they're going to lean more into the earnestness of what David Gordon Green and that creative team is able to do. So I'm pumped I'm sad it's going away, but I am pumped to see it.
I'm thinking 3 episodes or 4 episodes in the new season. I've been a bit let down. The direction was really bad the first couple, like the shots, and there's really weird stuff, and I felt like there was a lot of regression. So I hope it gets better. But I was like, the first episode was fun.
Yeah.
The Bradley Cooper flashback. But I was like, man, this is like, I don't feel like we're 5 seasons into these characters from where we were. But so speaking of low expectations, went and saw Thunderbolts last night.
Ah, yes.
And from you get a vibe when you watch the trailers for stuff, and the trailers, whenever you play like a rock soundtrack or whatever, and you're trying to show everybody a good time, or you get somebody who says a line and somebody in completely different location has another response line, like that kind of joke, you're literally making a joke in the trailer that doesn't exist in the movie, because a very, very bad feeling about it. and unfortunately, I can't say that it's better than Endgame, but it's probably right up there, Far From Home, as my favorite Marvel movie in the last 6 years.
Wow. Orange Cat in the chat said Thunderbolts is the best thing since Endgame.
I love Far From Home, but I will not argue. My wife said the same thing. I would say it will either hit for you or not. And if you come away going, I will not blame you. I don't want to spoil stuff or whatever. And it's but because I would say that don't avoid what you can. Not that there's like, oh, big, but there is you kind of know the story, but the way they do the story, the way it resolves, all this sort of stuff. There had been talk about like, oh, these characters could be some of the new faces of the MCU. And I would say 24 hours ago, I'd say, oh, Jesus Christ, really? Like, I can't even remember their names, this group. Now I'm like, kind of sick of the old Marvel and ready for this version of it. One of the things I heard somebody say was like, it's like The Boys if it wasn't written by a bunch of angsty edgelords, trying to like trigger your nerves and not just like. I don't want to oversell it. I don't want people thinking like, oh, I would just say that it was like it's a build, and I'm like, I don't know how it'll take it the second watch through because the pacing but they do the pacing is used for characters. They are building characters that are probably going to be around for a long time. I had been joking, and I think I said this to Justin, which was, what if, because I heard some of the reviews that came out were good, but there was also like Disney does a weird thing where they're selective who they give it to. Like, so I don't know. You hear like, it was like this, like the thing they say about Star Wars TV shows. They always start off really high and you realize they're complete crap. Because, Mickey Mouse shows up with a bunch of photos of the blogger at some fan con in a compromising position and says, you gotta give it a good review. Yeah, right now it's 96% audience score, right? And again, opening night's gonna be hardcore, but it's not like not like the Thunderbolts had a huge fan base to show up for that. But I'm the joke I'm saying though is like, what if Thunderbolts is the good one this summer and Fantastic Four is the one that sucks?
Oh, don't you talk that way? No. Why not both? We can have both.
Oh, we hope that Kevin Feige woke up and that's why Daredevil was good and that's why Thunderbolts is good and hopefully Fantastic Four is good.
Yeah, my issue I'd say right now with FF, and again, I'm big Matt Shakman, the guy who's directing it, huge fan. I think he's amazing, but it's also like, I think I know the whole plot. I think that I know the whole plot to this movie from just the trailers, and if you're kind of a Marvel fan, which I think the execution would be, but also there's can I say a thing?
Min Wong just shouted, Kevin Feige woke up.
I don't know anything, but yeah.
Are you gonna guess the plot of Fantastic Four?
The monsters in the water tower?
No, I'll tell you a movie that I'll go, it probably is going to be like.
What's that? Go ahead.
It would be like The Empire Strikes Back of the MCU.
Oh. Yeah. Okay. So you're saying
I read a plot leak, so I think I know the plot.
Okay. You know what? Yeah. That would track. This is me. I don't have the amazing movie prediction insight that Andrew has, and I have not read any spoils like Justin has. So I feel, in fact, I'm not going to look for reactions while I speculate. If it were to be like an Empire Strikes Back, then it would track that. I could picture. We haven't seen Doctor Doom. They haven't said anything about Doctor Doom. Keeping my eyes closed. I could picture Doctor Doom being in the movie, that being really great, and Galactus straight up eating Earth, and they escape to the traditional MCU universe. I could picture something like that. But that's what I'm imagining.
We'll see. And I think that, and I would say I'll defend even if we have a plot that we've already predicted it's in the telling that'll make the difference and make us care to make the difference.
That's my fear about Fantastic Four is that the cast doesn't have any chemistry in the trailers. Like that's my fear. My fear is that it's like it. I'm not saying they won't in the movie, and maybe they're trying to hide what of the plot that they have, but it doesn't feel like they're like, I don't know, crackling. There's not a whole lot of like, man, I really think these guys love each other when they really need to love each other.
I think the bar for Thunderbolts have been set pretty high on like team ups. The last time I watched a group come together in a movie and I loved it was Guardians.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I'm a heretic. I am a big James Gunn fan. Guardians 2 and Guardians 3, I can do without. I just don't think they're very good structurally. I don't think they're good. I know people love Guardians 3, and that's fine. I just don't think it's a good movie. I think Guardians 2 is a bad movie. I think Guardians 3 is not a good movie. I think he Guardians 2, I couldn't handle all the kind of the clapter of like, you know, the taser face thing. Like, so literally you're having characters laugh at a dumb joke. So we all think it's a fun joke, but it's really nowhere near the level of writing we got it, like, you know, Peacemaker, you know, like I know what he's capable of. But anyhow, Thunderbolts had great chemistry. I'll say that. I really
well, let me ask you, the James Gunn comp would not be Guardians, although obviously it will be compared to that, but Thunderbolts as a concept has similarities to the Suicide Squad. How would those two compare?
I think that there are sincere moments in the Suicide Squad with characters you like, but we spend a lot of time in their own, and we get each character sort of like their screw ups, whatever. These people, Thunderbolts, I would say they felt like the most realistic characters in the MCU, and particularly, you know, Walker, you know, U.S. agent, you know, former Captain America, you know, for a minute. Like I love. He was the only thing I loved about, you know, Falcon and Winter Soldier. He was the one storyline that I actually enjoyed. That him and he was Isaiah. Like I like the Isaiah story was in. I wanted the Isaiah story. I didn't want the other story, and that was like one of the many things that made Brave New World so terrible. Was like there are all these other interesting stories we could have got, and we didn't get this. We literally got Temu, Captain America, Winter Soldier. I mean, literally, that's what, if you go break down the plot of Brave New World, it's like down to, you know, here's Temu, Black Widow. Here's, you know, Temu version of Winter Soldier, who's Temu this. It's always just lesser versions of everything in that. And so we'll talk, but like the idea that Thunderbolts is this new superhero team that's not quite as great as other superhero teams is kind of what makes it awesome. So I would say that I like the earnestness a bit more in this, in my take, and it just felt realistic.
Did you see the A24 knockoff trailer that they did for Thunderbolts?
No.
Marvel did a like prestige indie movie trailer for Thunderbolts. And that was when I think I knew, like, okay, Marvel thinks that they have something here. Like,
if this did not have the name Marvel on it, you know, and it was some other director had done this, it would be, you critics would be championing this from the rooftops that this is what Marvel needs to be. They need to do this because it's, you know, Absolute Cinema. That's the one, right? Yeah. So I'll check that out. Yeah.
Yeah, we can watch that after we wrap up the program.
Okay, cool. Yep, sounds great. It's been weird. Go see Thunderbolts.
All right, here, we'll take a look at this.
Elena, being a hero, there is no higher calling.
Oh, wait, sorry.
Your sister understood
I
something
don't have the right
about
thing
that.
on.
I should have come back for you.
Here, I'll back it up. There we go.
Elena, being a hero, there is no higher calling. Your sister understood something about that.
I should have come back for you.
No. That's just a fairy tale.
I was in high school when the Avengers came. Kind of
I don't
strange
hear
that
the
it's all
music,
over
Brian.
now. No one's coming.
Yeah, that's
I'm gonna mute you.
that's interesting. Okay.
To save the day.
I think we are. We can be the ones that are coming.
Buck, you have the wrong people. We have all done bad things.
Look, I've been where you are. The past doesn't go away. So you can either live with it forever, or you can do something about it.
I am the void. Look what you unleashed. You can't outrun the emptiness.
We can't do this. No one here is a hero.
We all have things that we regret.
But I have so many.
Lena, when I look at you, I don't see your mistakes. That's why we need each other.
We can't stop him alone. No one can. But we can find a way. Together.
Marvel Studios Thunderbolts.
Which trailer? I watched the Absolute Cinema one. which is
Yeah,
the
was
more-
that not the right one, Justin?
No.
No. I think the Absolute Cinema one was
Ah.
a little bit more stylized.
Yeah, check that one out. That's the Absolute Cinema one is the trailer they should have led with when they first put this out
There's
there. because
something wrong.
There we go. Yeah.
The Avengers are not coming. Who will keep people safe?
Yes!
So is that one more reflective of the actual movie?
Yes.
Andrew? Okay.
Yes.
Because that
Yes.
one was great. I like that first one. That was the one that kind of put me off of giving it a try. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
and the other one was the problem with the Marvel machine is that like there have been people that have been there for decades I think did a great job, but when they go to make a trailer, they're like, we'll make a Marvel trailer, and I'm like, this is a Marvel movie, but it's a new phase, really where we should be. And it's probably the same people making Brave New World trailers and stuff. But I do think that they did this because they realized, oh shit, like, and again, it is the cinematographer from, Green Knight. It is the music from, Everything All at Once. Like the music's different, everything's different. And it feels like an evolution that was just like, I thought Winter Soldier was this great evolution of finally Marvel's doing this kind of a maturity there. We get some stuff, the end game and all that was just epic sort of level. This was, to me, it was, again, I don't want to oversell it. I don't want to be like, oh my God, it changed cinema. I just want to be like, it's a really good
It's a great
movie.
Marvel movie. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just a good movie that you go, you'll have nitpicks, you'll walk away going, I wish this and stuff. But
I think it sounds like it is evocative of when Marvel was really good, was when you could walk in and be surprised because they're going to take things in a different direction and it's fun and it clicks. All right, boys, I got to go and take this call.
Later.
I'll talk to you. Bye.
Oh, I kind of like this shot. That was some
Yeah.
fun. That was some fun Brady that just happened.
yeah. So see it.
Yeah, I will.
And again, just expect a little bit of pacing, slow burn, whatever. Don't go in and think it's going to knock you out of the socks. But like I'd say 10 minutes in, Roshni and I looked at each other. They're like, we're nothing, there is Marvel logic to be sure. And you're like, I don't know about this mission thing here and the legality or the gray area here. But anyhow, it's just sort of,
That's great. That's really great.
Yep.
Well, hey man, I do have a full schedule. Is it okay if we punt on After Things till next week?
Sure, no problem.
Okay. In the meantime, actually, I did. Well, here we could do a little. You know what? We can do. Do you want to do just a short 15-minute After Things? Would that be all right?
Sure. Sounds
Okay.
good to me.
All right. Here we go. Well, then go ahead and start us in 3, 2.
Hello and welcome to After Things. I'm Andrew Main, joined by Brian Brushwood.
Howdy, howdy.
Ryan, your studio looks great from here. The shot
It's-
looks really amazing.
It's coming together, and the infrastructure is close to perfect. The funny part, you know, I'm 8 months into what I've been calling the audit, where it's like stem to stern. The problem post eclipse, and you know, Jason Murphy wanted to move on to other stuff, has been first, you know, core. I needed to drop 32 pounds. I'm down 32 pounds. Then second, you got to craft the fundamentals. You have to have absolute clarity on where you're headed on the narrative of any kind of independent project, or any project really at all. Like you have to flesh out the character of your work so well that no matter what gets thrown at it, you instantly know what the response is. But then the bulk of the last 6 months has been just doing the reps of learning how to post a video on YouTube. Somehow I went 18 years. Like the first year I posted my own stuff to YouTube. And then from 2009 until 2024, that was some other adult in the room. Like that was their job to know about the legalities, about what the rules were, about what worked, what didn't work. And to be surrounded by all those opaque black boxes, it was fine when I was a 12-person organism, when all of my projects were a 12-person organism, but that is a lot of money that it chews through. And then being at this kind of nascent space of AI, when humans want to move on and go do other stuff, it was pretty clear to me, like, man, no two ways about it, Brian. You need to hold the whole operation in your head, and you need to learn to do everything there is to be done. There needs to be not one opaque part of the operation. And so now I'm in a place where this morning I got up, and I'm now, they call it deliberate practice, when you do a rep, but you're focused on maximizing that rep. So for the first time, I literally did a stopwatch, and for 15 minutes of principal photography, it took me 45 minutes to set up the camera, the lights, the sound, and I was able to get 2 camera shoot with, I believe, good lighting that I was pleased with in 45 minutes. 45 minutes to get a 15 minutes of principal photography, and eventually that 15 minutes would be refined. So I started the stopwatch again, and in under 3 hours, I was able to take the 2 camera shoot, the B-roll, and create AI generated music that I had also created, title sequence overlay, all of the edits in Adobe Premiere Pro. It was under 3 hours. It was 2 hours and 45 minutes. Then, because I've now launched in the last 8 months over 1,000 YouTube videos, it was easy to take it into Premiere, into Midwife it. And in fact, I can pull it up right here. Do you mind taking a look at it?
I'd love to see this.
Okay. So this is a case where once you've got a thing and you're running the engine, you need to come up with capital. And so that's where I'm at now. I'm out of my reserves. And so here we go. So here's the episode introducing the mysterious 4th Brian Brushwood book test. Gather round, scoundrels, for I come bearing good news. There's a mysterious 4th Brian Brushwood book test coming, and for one very simple reason. It's going to be better than the other 3 combined. Don't tell the other 3, though. They're sensitive about that kind of thing. If you're out of the loop, let me catch you up to speed. Some of you guys know that there's something called a book test, a type of magic trick that is personally my very favorite mind-reading game of chess that's out there. I came up with my own version that I toured with for a long time, and then I released it just to the highest end of magicians. In fact, here's what it looks like performed on the Today Show.
One, it's a Shining. My show takes place in a hotel.
Yep.
Second one is Da Vinci Code. It's a mystery. And the third one, of course, obviously,
A magician.
Right. So, Kathy Lee, I'd like you to choose a book.
I'm going to pick The Shining.
Perfect. There's about 454 pages.
Yeah.
And on each page, there's
Hundreds of
Literally
words?
Hundreds of words. I'd like
Yes.
you to take the book.
Okay.
I'd
Brian,
like
you
you
look
to open
different
it to any
there.
page you want at all, and I want you to think of a big word, a really big word, something juicy.
Like
not-
gargantuan.
Right.
Can I help
Something
her?
that's- yeah,
Okay.
you can help her.
No, no. I don't like that one. It's not good. Okay.
Got it?
Yes.
Okay, remember
Yes.
it. Don't
Yes.
say it. Close the book. But you saw all the words were different, right? You could pick anyone, but you had one.
I almost forgot it. Okay.
I want you to think of just the first letter of that word. I want you to think of the first letter. I want you to think of an animal that begins with the first letter. An animal that begins with the first letter.
You just
Don't say it out loud.
Oh.
It's okay. Okay, you already said tiger, so that's fine.
Okay.
I won't try to guess that. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to guess the whole word. Think of the whole word right now. I wrote something down on this piece of paper.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes or no? Is that your word?
No. You knew it started with a T.
I did, but this actually means something.
Oh.
Earlier on in the day, I had a friend write something down on a piece of paper, sort of as a prediction, and I had him bring it here. Would you be impressed if your word was written on a sign outside?
We'd be flabbergasted.
Is that your word?
Well, it is. It is kind of.
I know that's not that impressive, but I want you to keep looking at the sign.
Okay.
For the first time, what was the word you were thinking of?
Thunderstruck.
Thunderstruck.
Wow. Jaws dropping.
We were the only two who knew it.
In the whole world.
It is a very, very good magic trick, which is why it has only been performed by the most elite performers in all of magic. And I don't just mean on stage. I'm talking about the high-end enthusiast who's a billionaire neuroscientist during the day and magician wizard by night. Probably doesn't solve many crimes that way. The point is, after 20 years, I'm ready to take another crack at it. Because as good as this book test is, there is one fatal flaw. Magicians know it exists. The perfect book test would have all the features of these 3 books and the shrouded mystery of nobody knowing which book it is. So to make the mysterious 4th Brian Brushwood book test truly special, I intend to never speak its name aloud. That's right, I will never cop in public as to which one the actual book is. And even better, I'm gonna make it very easy for everybody to provide evidence of all the books it's not. Most of you know that the first 3 books in the book test are regarded as best in breed. This one will be more special because it will be under the radar, because it will be a mystery. So here's what we're gonna do. It's coming this fall, and if you want to secure your reservation, head on over to perfectbooktest.com. For $25, not only do you secure your reservation, but you get an instant download right now, revealing what the actual book is, revealing all the inner details on the 3 totally separate effects that you can pull off with it, explaining the entire system, and when you see how good an idea it is, you get to participate in the cover-up with a disinformation kit. It takes about an hour to unpack everything, and it's a lot of fun. You're gonna dig the video no matter what. Truly, every single detail is spilled. You get it right now, and you get to secure your spot in line by heading on over to perfectbooktest.com. 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 You keep on saying it. Perfectbooktest.com. I don't know where that went. It's everything you've ever wanted to know about Then the it's just Brian one Brushwood more book test, summary, but we're afraid one to more ask. lap on there. And also a secured spot in line for the next one, which will be mysterious. Take care, scoundrels. So 4-hour turnaround for that press release.
Yeah, that looked fantastic, Brian. I mean, that's the, you know, and again, I'm excited about the book test. I think I did my pre-order on that. It's the Bible, right? Right.
Can neither confirm nor deny.
The autobiography of Brian Brushwood. Esquire.
I don't think this is a spoiler. Like for the disinformation kit, I was in a library, so I would just grab a book, and then I had to, because I was, it's a bunch of fun clips of me claiming why it had to be this book or that book, and so it was fun to come up. I'm holding a book. I'm like, okay, why would this be? And it turns out that there was a lot of really good ones. Like I think I was holding Noble House, and I'm like, it's the perfect book because everybody kind of remembers it,
Mein Kampf. It's controversial, but nobody read it. And if they have, they won't admit to it. Very cool, excited. Yeah, a thing I think a lot about is how terrible I am at estimating how much time it'll take me to get something done. I think like I think there's like a big productivity gain to be made from really understanding like how much time you spend doing a task and what takes place, because I set out to do a thing and I start 5 little side projects and none of them are really consequential and I don't get the thing done I need to get done.
Well, and that might be a good thing for us to talk about in the vein of after things is because when you hit flow state, it's kind of indistinguishable to know whether or not you're in flow state doing something that is ultimately going to be productive for future you or to what extent, you know? And it's like setting that stopwatch was a good motivator, because I knew that I didn't, well, first of all, you know, for that channel, I didn't want to release on the weekend, especially because Saturday morning can easily drift into Saturday night if you just touch the video too much. And so I wanted to set, even now I can see a
Hold
couple
on.
of.
Can I get you to unpack that for a moment?
Yeah, sure. Well, in general, people ask here, I'll go ahead and show you. One of the common questions I get asked is, you know, when should you release your video? And the answer, like YouTube literally tells you the answer here. I'll switch accounts. Let's go to the, yeah, we'll do Scam Nation account. Gather around. Quiet. All right. So if you go to the metrics, and this is, man, the YouTube algorithm really is, or the YouTube backend studio is just a masterclass of design. So Scam Nation, it's a little bit sleepy right now because of the erratic release schedule. One of the things, if you want a passionate fan base, you have to have that steady drumbeat of reliable releases. And it's been a minute since, especially as I've been doing the audit, that I've been able to do that on this channel. But if you go into the analytics area, there we go. There we go. And you can see that there's a little bit of a pop that it's giving right now. And that's based on the mere fact of releasing. Like in this case, the pop went from, I don't know, 200 an hour, 290 to an hour to 600 an hour. Whenever the mere act of releasing is noticed by one of the algorithms. And so it knows to kind of give you a general boost of presence on all of your videos that you'll see. But then if you go into in the audience tab, you can see how many of your hardcores are coming back for what kind of content. And you can see, as I've gotten distracted and not released a short a day, everything kind of goes back to an inertial heat death state. But here, look at this. When your viewers are on YouTube, and you can see that they tend to be Monday to Friday, during the workday, and the heat map tells you, so a lot of your questions will, if you build up a map in your mind, they'll kind of become fairly obvious. Like if you didn't have this channel and somebody handed it to you and said, well, this is when my audience is there, can you tell me when I should release a video? And it's like, well, it should probably be just before everyone shows up for the day. And you can see that Fridays are more popular than Saturdays. Saturdays are thinner than Sundays. Sundays, of course, that makes sense. Culturally, you can picture that's a good time to, you know, hang around, learn, figure out some magic tricks, what have you. So in general, Friday midday is going to be better than Saturday. In theory, I could release it in the morning, but I'd be tempted to touch it again. And if I touch the video again, that leads to the perfect being the enemy of the good. And so in this case, I went ahead and pushed it. So now, with the benefit being, now that that video is out, the releasing of that video is a noteworthy reason for me to reach out on other mediums and platforms. It's something for me to tweet about. It's something for me to write an email about, like, hey, some of you guys aren't really clear on what the fourth book test game is. Here's a video I made about it. And in general, I'm trying really hard to iterate quickly and be just fully authentic. We've talked about this before. In an age of AI where polish is cheap, authenticity is going to reign supreme. That's everything from the NFL draft, physical events and all that stuff to warts and all. Like just now on the live stream, you know, it showed the revenue numbers, which some people are precious about, but for me, I'm in a phase where I built a system where I can share radically across the board to empower other people.
Yeah, I think that, one is the letting things play out and not trying to fiddle too much with things. I think that's the hard part. Like, I have 2 days ago, they retired GPT-4 from ChatGPT, right? So GPT-4, the original GPT-4 model, got retired. And so I wrote a blog post about like some memories from working on the launch of GPT-4. And I've got it, I got some notes back on it, and now I'm sitting on it, and I'm like, and I realized I thought about this before, like I don't blog anywhere nearly as much as I should be blogging 10 times as much. For the amount of stuff I put on Twitter, that I think is important to put out on Twitter, but Twitter goes out, gets some attention, and then it goes away, and then it's just gone. And also, God knows what happens to the algorithm if you get voted down because somebody there doesn't like you. And I just thought about like that, but I realized that like it takes me forever to put out a blog post. And of course, it's funny because it's talking with some friends of OpenAI where we talk. It's easier to launch a model than a blog post there because the approval process. But here, I'm like, oh, I got to tweak this, I got to tweak that, and I'm like, that's, it's better than a blog post that's 80%. It's worse than a blog post that's 80% there. No blog post.
Yeah.
And I think I need to get there, but I think that what you're going through, the experience that you're going through of kind of like stripping away everything and building it back up to understand the process, because we talk about bureaucracy as if it's something that happens in big companies, and cruft and these things can happen with one person. We can have one flow or an inefficient way of doing this, and you compound this with 4 or 5 people, and you just start to see this thing build up. And one of the things that I'm very bullish on AI being able to do a lot of things, but often people who do well in orgs are people who know how to get permission. And sometimes it's silly to have to do that. Like I decided I wanted to do other things because I had to spend more time getting permission to do things, not necessarily like from higher ups, but just agreement from other people. And even in a small org, like you look at like, here's a process, do this, here's a process, here's 20 decisions that have to be made, and nothing gets made.
Yeah. Well, and it's that paralysis, and well, it's not even a type of paralysis. It's worse than a paralysis because it will feel like you're making progress the entire time, but it's like Zeno's arrow if it wasn't a paradox. Like you will perpetually get halfway there and never make it if you don't set a hard deadline to push. My favorite moment is not the moment before I go on stage, or actually my favorite moment is when I get to the venue, because up until that moment, the show could be anything. But the moment I get to the venue, it's like, nope, the show's going to be what I can do here. And I have exactly 2 hours and 40 minutes to figure out what I can do and whatever I do. And then the second worst moment is that moment before I step on stage, because before I step on stage, my performance could be any amount of good, and I just have to fantasize and spin up about that. But the moment one foot hits the stage, it's like, nope, my performance is what is happening right now. And it was an agonizing, mushy middle after the eclipse, because it's like getting ready to get ready. And then finally there came that moment where I started, we've talked about this, getting up at 5:45 and running 4 to 5 miles every day. And then it was the story audit. Then it was the attention audit. And now get ready for a lot of sales. By the way, everybody should go buy the $25 download for the book test to find out how it's done. It's great.
Very clever. I love the way Brian solves problems. Brian, you have a way of thinking about things that I think is very, very clever in the way you follow through. And there's a good reason why Teller is a big fan of yours. Speaking of which, did you see their entropy trick?
No, I heard about it as it was getting worked on, and the advice I was given was by Teller was, wait for it to be fully cooked and then experience it.
Yeah, it's on. They've uploaded on YouTube.
Okay.
And so, they came up on my stream. I normally don't watch Magic on my YouTube channel because I don't want Magic in my YouTube channel, but I made an exception to watch this. And I will say this, not knowing anything, for the first half, I'm like, that's sort of weak. And then I realized I had been tricked by Penn and
Oh
Teller.
yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, this is really, I don't know how much you know, but like, I'm like, oh, this is, they have this habit of like, the thing you think they're doing is not the thing they're doing.
Well, and that goes back to that it's I'm sure there's some kind of survivorship bias that colors it, but like it's in that letter that Teller wrote all those years ago where he's like, here's the secret: withhold information, let the shadow grow longer, then reveal the truth. And damned if, like, once you really, look at it through that lens, that's not exactly what they're doing all the time.
Yeah. Very cool. I'll just follow up and saying that, like, I'm going to try to do an audit of how much time I spend on tasks, because I know that I'm trying to get a lot of things done and I spend a lot of silly time. I spend a lot of time deliberating on stuff. Like right now I've got, I got to get a repair done to part of my house. And I've got like 3 different quotes, but I'm also in that choice paralysis. Do I do this? Do I do that? Do I do that? And it's not even like the money. It's just the, who do I go with kind of thing. And of course I have one person who gave me the original quote and they've now like quadrupled it since I spoke to them, which I'm like, I'm not going to use them because they're unreliable, but cool.
Yeah.
I recommend hourglasses and other things to figure out how much time you spend doing a task, and alarm clocks and all sorts of stuff.
And deadlines, self-imposed deadlines. Like say, hey man, you could work as hard or not as hard as you want on this task, but when that thing dings, you're going to stop. And then that shapes how you approach it.
Yeah. All right, Brian, it's been after.
Boop. Good job, team.
Yay, us.
Thanks for letting me run that ad.
Yeah, no problem. I like the stuff you make, and I think it's cool. So
I'm excited about it. It's come together really, really nice. Well, speaking of which, I got to go bang drums on it. So I'm going to let you go live stream. And here, I'm going to say goodbye to the live stream. Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye.